The envelope trembled in his hand like a live wire, the crisp cream paper sealed with wax that cracked under his thumb as if it had been waiting decades to shatter. "Mom, Dad, I'm getting married. Come see for yourself." The words inside mocked him, elegant script belying the venom of old wounds. In the rearview mirror of his rented Tesla, Ethan watched the wrought iron gates of Hawthorne Academy swing shut behind him. The only home he'd ever truly lost, now a ghost demanding one final haunting. Ethan Sinclair had always known he was different, but it wasn't until the autumn of his 14th year that the world decided to make it a curse. Hawthorne Academy loomed like a Gothic sentinel in the rolling hills of rural Vermont, its ivy-choked spires whispering secrets to the wind-swept pines. Founded in 1892 for the sons of America's industrial titans, it was the kind of place where legacies were forged in leather-bound ledgers and quiet betrayals, where boys learned to tie perfect Windsor knots before they learned to tie their own shoes. Ethan's father, Harlan Sinclair, a steel magnate from Pittsburgh whose fortune was built on rusting mills and ruthless mergers, had shipped him off that September with a handshake and a promise. "This'll make a man of you, son. Toughen you up for the family business." The drive up from the city had been a symphony of silence, broken only by the hum of the Bentley and the occasional rustle of his mother's fingers against her pearl necklace. Lydia Sinclair, with her Park Avenue poise and eyes like faded sepia photographs, had packed his trunk herself. Crisp button-downs, wool blazers, and a single framed photo of the three of them at the Hamptons, smiling like they belonged in each other's worlds. "Right every week," she'd murmured at the dorm steps, her voice a fragile thread. Harlan clapped him on the back, too hard, as if testing for weakness. "No whining, Ethan. Real men don't." That first night, as the bell tolled 9 from the chapel steeple, Ethan lay in his narrow bed, the room a sterile cube of polished oak and starched linens shared with a roommate named Jasper Hale, a lanky kid from Boston with freckles like scattered constellations and a laugh that cut through the gloom. The other boys, 70 in their year alone, moved like shadows in the halls, their whispers a low buzz of pedigrees and pranks. Ethan, with his soft brown curls and eyes the color of Lake Michigan on a stormy day, felt like an intruder in his own skin. He missed the chaos of their Pittsburgh brownstone, the way his dad's cigars scented the library, the rare evenings when Lydia would play Debussy on the baby grand, her fingers dancing like fireflies. Weeks blurred into a rhythm of reveille and recitations. Latin conjugations at dawn, lacrosse drills in the mud-slick fields, evenings bent over Cicero under the flicker of gas lamps. Ethan excelled, as expected, top of his class in history, debating the fall of empires with a fervor that startled his professors. But it was the quiet moments that unraveled him. The way his gaze lingered too long on the curve of a classmate's jaw during assembly, the heat that bloomed unbidden when arms brushed in the locker room. He buried it deep, like contraband in his footlocker, telling himself it was the altitude, the isolation, anything but the truth clawing its way out. Jasper noticed first. "You're awfully jumpy, Sinclair," he'd say, tossing a hacky sack across the room during study hour, his green eyes sharp as new pennies. Jasper was everything Ethan envied. Effortlessly athletic, with a quick wit that disarmed the upperclassmen and a family name that opened doors without knocking. His father was a senator, his mother a philanthropist who summered in Nantucket. They wrote letters thick as novels, filled with clippings from the Globe and invitations to holiday galas. Jasper read them aloud in theatrical bursts, mimicking his dad's gravelly baritone, and Ethan would laugh until his sides ached, the sound a rare bloom in the Academy's frost. One crisp October afternoon, after a brutal scrimmage that left Ethan's shins bruised and his lungs burning, they collapsed onto the bleachers overlooking the frozen pond. The air smelled of leaf smoke and impending snow, the campus a patchwork of crimson maples bleeding into the evergreens. Jasper pulled a contraband pack of Marlboros from his coat, lighting one with a Zippo that bore his initials in engraved silver. "Don't tell," he grinned, passing it over. Ethan took a drag, coughing as the bitterness coiled in his chest, but it was the proximity that stole his breath. Jasper's knee pressed against his, the faint scent of pine soap clinging to his skin. "You ever think about getting out of here?" Ethan asked, exhaling smoke rings that dissolved like dreams. Jasper leaned back, boots scuffing the wood. All the damn time. Harvard in 3 years, then law school. Dad's got it all mapped out. Senate seat by 30, maybe a run for the White House. He paused, flicking ash into the wind. What about you? Steel King like your old man? Ethan shrugged, the weight of expectations settling like damp fog. Maybe, or something else. Something that feels real. The words hung there, vulnerable, and Jasper's gaze softened, searching his face in the slanting light. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the space between them. The unspoken pull, electric and terrifying. Then Jasper clapped him on the shoulder, breaking the spell. Real's overrated, Sinclair. Stick with me, and we'll fake it, till we make it. That stick with me became their unspoken pact, forged in late-night confessions over pilfered apple pie from the kitchens. Jasper taught him to sneak into the observatory, where they'd sprawl on the dome's catwalk, mapping constellations with stolen star charts. Ethan shared dog-eared copies of Whitman from the library, reading passages aloud until Jasper's snores joined the crickets. It was friendship, pure as the first snowfall, but beneath it simmered something Ethan couldn't name, a warmth that scared him more than the headmaster's cane. Thanksgiving loomed like a guillotine. Most boys scattered homeward on the private rail line, trunks bulging with laundry and lies. Ethan waited on the platform, breath fogging the chill, watching the train's plumes snake toward the horizon. His parents were in D.C. Harlan schmoozing lobbyists, Lydia at a gala for the opera. We'll fetch you for Christmas. The telegram read, terse as a contract. So he stayed, one of a dozen stragglers herded into the dining hall for a feast of canned turkey and watery gravy. Jasper's family had a flu outbreak. He stayed too, claiming boredom with his sister's cotillion. They spent the holiday raiding the wine cellar, toasting to misfits and merry hell, their laughter echoing off the vaulted beams. But December brought the reckoning. It started with a letter, innocuous at first, postmarked from Pittsburgh, Lydia's looping script inviting him to a family dinner upon return. Ethan read it by candlelight in the dorm, Jasper peering over his shoulder. Sounds stuffy, Jasper quipped. Bet your mom's got that pearl clutch ready. Ethan folded it away, but the unease lingered, a splinter under the skin. The incident happened on a sleet-lashed night, the kind where the wind howls like banshees through the quad. Ethan had slipped out for a walk, unable to sleep, the academy's silence pressing like a shroud. He wandered to the old oak by the pond, its branches skeletal against the moon, and there, in the shadows, he saw them. 2 upperclassmen, seniors from the rowing team, locked in an embrace that was anything but brotherly. One's hand cupped the other's neck, their breaths mingling in frantic puffs, lips meeting in a kiss that was desperate, forbidden. Ethan's heart hammered, a mirror to his own buried longings, and he froze, transfixed, until a twig snapped under his boot. They whirled, faces paling in the lantern light. What the fuck? The taller one snarled, shoving his partner behind him. Panic surged, hot and blinding. Ethan bolted, feet pounding the frozen path, but the damage was done. Whispers spread like frost on glass. The new kid, the Pittsburgh pretty boy, spying on queers in the dark. By morning, the headmaster's office summoned him, Harlan's voice crackling over the line from a hotel suite. What is this nonsense? Spying? On what? Ethan stammered denials, throat raw, but the questions came like lashes. Had he seen? Did he feel? The dean, a stern Baptist with a face like carved granite, leaned in close. We don't tolerate deviance here, son. Not in God's house. Jasper stood outside the door, fists clenched. But when Ethan emerged, hollow-eyed, his friend could only mutter, Jesus, what did you do? The call from home came at vespers. Lydia's voice, brittle as autumn leaves. Your father is disappointed. Deeply. Harlan took the receiver, his tone iron. Pack your things. You're coming home. Tonight. No train. No goodbyes. Just a black town car idling at the gates, headlights cutting the storm like judgment. Ethan threw clothes into his valise, tears blurring the monogrammed initials. Jasper burst in, rain-soaked, grabbing his arm. This is bullshit. They're wrong, you're not. But Ethan yanked free, the lie too heavy to voice. I am Jazz, and they know it now. The words escaped like a confession, raw and irrevocable. Jasper recoiled, eyes wide, then surged forward, pulling him into a hug that crushed the air from his lungs. Then fuck 'em. You're the best damn thing in this place. They held on until the horn blared, a final severing. The drive south was interminable, sleet morphing to rain that lashed the windows like accusations. Harlan gripped the wheel, jaw set, while Lydia dabbed her eyes with a lace handkerchief. We thought boarding school would help, she whispered. Make you normal. Ethan stared at the blur of taillights, the academy shrinking in the side mirror. A fortress abandoned, its walls no longer a cage but a tomb. At the estate, the staff averted gazes, the Christmas tree twinkling mockingly in the foyer. Harlan marched him to the study, pouring scotch with hands that shook. This ends now, boy. No more of that filth. You'll see the therapist tomorrow. Electric shocks if need be. Ethan's world fractured there, on the Persian rug stained with generations of spilled secrets. He nodded, numb, but inside, a spark ignited defiance, small as an ember, promising one day he'd burn it all down, or rise from the ashes. The therapist's office smelled of stale coffee and regret. A beige box in Shadyside where Dr. Hargrove adjusted his spectacles and scribbled notes like a cartographer mapping hell. Sessions blurred into a ritual of shame. Tell me about the feelings, Ethan. The urges. He'd stare at the diplomas on the wall, Yale 52, willing the words to stay buried. Harlan footed the bill, a king's ransom for normalcy, while Lydia fluttered about with casseroles and prayers, her rosary beads clicking like a metronome of denial. It's a phase, darling. Like the mumps. Pittsburgh swallowed him whole that winter, its steel mills belching smoke into skies the color of bruised plums. No more Hawthorne, no Jasper's midnight stories, just home tutors in the sunroom, lessons laced with lectures on legacy. Sinclair's build empires, Harlan growled over breakfast, fork stabbing his eggs. Not, whatever this is. Ethan retreated to the attic, a dusty eyrie of forgotten heirlooms. His grandfather's war medals, yellowed ledgers from the mills. There, he wrote letters he never sent. Pages filled with Hawthorne's ghosts, the pond's frozen gleam, the ache of Jasper's hug. One night, drunk on pilfered bourbon, he scrawled to his parents. You left me there to die inside, but I'm still breathing. Spring thawed the Monongahela, but not the rift. Harlan's rages escalated, doors slamming, voices rising through the floorboards. I won't have a fairy for a son. Ruining the name. Lydia mediated with tears and tranquilizers, her bridge club a lifeline of gossip and gin. Ethan turned 15 in silence, the cake untouched, his gift a leather-bound ledger from his father. For your future accounts. He burned it in the fireplace that night, watching flames devour the pages, embers rising like freed souls. By summer, the shocks began. Not the dramatic jolts of old movies, but subtle horrors. Aversion therapy in a clinic downtown, where wires hummed against his temples and slides flickered. Men embracing, then nausea induced by bitter syrup. Associate the wrong with pain, Dr. Hargrove intoned. Ethan vomited into basins, body rebelling while his mind screamed. He dreamed of Jasper, of the observatory stars, waking sweat-soaked and alone. One session, as the projector whirred, he whispered to the empty room, I won't forget how to feel. Escape came in fragments. A library card, devouring Baldwin and Ginsberg under the covers with a flashlight. He volunteered at the local shelter, stacking crates for the homeless vets his father had laid off in '78, their stories of betrayal echoing his own. Family's a double-edged sword, kid, one grizzled man rasped, sharing a smoke behind the bins. Cuts deepest when it turns. Ethan nodded, the wisdom settling like river silt. Fall brought a fragile truce. Harlan, softened by a merger's success, allowed public school, Shadyside Academy, ironically, a day program for the city's elite. No boarding, No dorms. Just classrooms buzzing with kids who eyed his quiet intensity like a puzzle. He kept his head down, acing AP history while dodging the jocks' locker room gauntlets. But isolation bred hunger. He craved connection, the kind Hawthorne had teased but never delivered. Then came Alex Rivera, transfer from Chicago, with skin like burnished copper and a smile that could coax sun from clouds. Alex was out, blatantly, defiantly, pinning rainbow stickers to his binder, quoting act-up pamphlets in debate club. "Why hide?" he'd say, lounging on the quad with his Doc Martens propped on a bench. "The world's burning. Might as well dance in the flames." Ethan watched from afar, drawn like a moth, until Alex caught him staring during lunch, waving him over with a fry-dipped grin. "You look like you swallowed a thesaurus. Spill. What's your poison?" They bonded over bootleg mixtapes in Alex's basement, walls plastered with posters of Madonna and Morrissey. Alex's mom, a labor organizer, baked empanadas and asked real questions. "What makes your heart race, Mijo?" His dad, a mechanic with grease-stained hands, clapped Ethan on the back without flinching. For the first time, Ethan spoke the unspeakable, Hawthorne's shadow, the shocks, the abandonment. Alex listened, fierce-eyed, then pulled him into a hug. "That's not family. That's a goddamn prison sentence. You deserve a parade, not pity." Their first kiss happened under Pittsburgh's fractured bridges, the Ohio River churning black below, fireflies winking like conspirators. It was tentative, tasting of root beer and revolution, Alex's hands gentle on his waist. "You're safe here," he murmured against Ethan's lips. And for a season, he was stolen moments in the arcade, slow dances at underground raves, whispers of forever amid the Steel City's hum. Alex dreamed big, NYU film school, docs on queer icons. Ethan, inspired, applied to colleges coast to coast, essays laced with fire. Reclamation isn't forgiveness. It's rewriting the map. But cracks spiderwebbed. Harlan discovered a love note slipped into Ethan's jacket. "Can't wait to build our world, E." And the explosion rivaled the mill's old furnaces. "That spick trash talker? Over my dead body," he bellowed, veins bulging like cables. Lydia wept, clutching her crucifix. "He's leading you astray, darling." Ethan fought back, voice steady for the first time. "No, Dad. I'm leading myself." The grounding was biblical, no phone, no Alex, patrols by the housekeeper. He snuck out anyway, scaling the trellis to meet his love under street lamps. But the strain showed, Alex's frustration mounting, Ethan's guilt a slow poison. Winter solstice brought the fracture. At a holiday party Alex dragged him to, a warehouse bash pulsing with synth and sweat, Ethan caught a glimpse of Jasper. Impossibly, there in Pittsburgh, collar popped, laughing with Ivy hopefuls. Heart slamming, Ethan crossed the floor, but Jasper's eyes widened in recognition, then shuddered. "Sinclair? Holy shit, man." The hug was awkward, laced with years unspoken. Jasper was prepping for Harvard, interning at his dad's firm. "Heard you got yanked. Rough break." Ethan probed for the old spark, but Jasper deflected with shots and small talk, his gaze sliding away when Alex appeared, arms slung possessively. Later, in the alley's chill, Alex confronted him. "Who's the ghost?" Ethan confessed the Hawthorne bond, the what-ifs. Alex's face hardened. "Past is past, D. But if you're still hung up." The argument spiraled, jealousy, fear, the city's cold amplifying every word. "I need all of you, not halves," Alex shouted, storming off into the night. Ethan chased, but the divide had opened, a chasm widened by old wounds. Reconciliation came haltingly, over New Year's at Alex's, resolutions scrawled on napkins, no more hiding, but Harlan's shadow loomed. He'd hired a PI, tailing Ethan's every move. The ultimatum dropped like a bomb in March. Shape up, or you're cut off. No college fund for perverts. Ethan chose exile, scholarships to UPenn, a duffel and dreams. Alex drove him to the Greyhound, tears streaking the dashboard. "This isn't goodbye. It's Act 2. Their kiss was fierce, a vow etched in fogged glass. Philadelphia welcomed him with brick row houses and Liberty Bell echoes, a city of rebels where he could breathe. Dorms buzzed with possibility. Lit classes dissecting wild, queer alliance meetings in basements thick with incense and ideology. Ethan thrived, majoring in American Studies, thesis on queer exiles in industrial America. Alex visited weekends, their love deepening into shared leases and late-night screenplays. But distance gnawed, calls grew sparse, Alex's ambitions pulling toward Chicago's film co-ops. Senior year, betrayal struck like lightning. Ethan, interning at a non-profit archiving labor histories, uncovered a file on Sinclair Steel, his father's company, implicated in union busting, blacklists that ruined lives. Rage simmered. He leaked it anonymously to the Inquirer, a quiet act of severance. Harlan's response was swift. A disowning letter, cold as mill iron. You've chosen your path. Don't darken our door. Lydia's note followed, pleading, come home, please, for Easter. He burned them both, but the scar festered. Alex, sensing the fracture, proposed over falafel in Rittenhouse Square. Marry me. Let's make it official vows. Rings, the works. Joy warred with doubt. Ethan said yes, envisioning a ceremony in the Poconos, wildflowers and witnesses who chose him. But whispers of old loyalties surfaced. Jasper, friend on Facebook, liking posts from afar. A message pinged. Heard the news. Congrats, man. You deserve it. As graduation dawned, Ethan stood on the Schuylkill's banks, diploma in hand, Alex's ring glinting on his finger. The past wasn't buried. It was compost, feeding new growth. Yet in quiet moments he wondered, could forgiveness bloom from such poisoned soil? The invitation took shape in his mind. A gauntlet thrown, not in spite, but in triumph. Come see the man you tried to break, he'd write. Watch him wed the life you denied. Little did he know, the wedding would unearth more than roots. It would demand a reckoning, where love's light pierced the darkest vaults of the heart. The years unspooled like film reels in a sun-dappled editing suite, each frame a step from boy to man, from fracture to forge. Philadelphia's grit gave way to New York's electric pulse when Alex landed a gig at Tribeca Productions, scripting indie flicks that bled authenticity, tales of immigrant hustles and hidden desires. Ethan followed, trading academia for advocacy, landing at a Manhattan firm specializing in LGBTQ+ rights, drafting briefs that chipped at glass ceilings and ironclad biases. Their walk-up in the Village was a shrine to chaos. Stacks of scripts yellowing on the fire escape, protest posters curling at the edges, a king-sized bed that sagged under the weight of dreams deferred and desires fulfilled. Marriage planning became their rebellion, a blueprint drawn in coffee stains and MetroCard scratches. Nothing stuffy, Alex insisted, pacing their kitchenette. Locks tied back with a bandana. Think rooftop vows at sunset, skyline as witness. Tacos from the truck on Houston, not caviar. Ethan laughed, pulling him close. And drag queens as officiant? Honey, we're going full spectrum. They chose June 2028, the summer solstice, when the city thrummed with pride's afterglow. Rainbow flags snapping from brownstones, the air thick with possibility and parade confetti. But joy's underbelly stirred old ghosts. Sifting through guest lists, Ethan's pen hovered over blank spaces. Harlan and Lydia Sinclair. The abandonment's echo hadn't faded. It hummed like a low-frequency ache, amplified by holidays spent with Alex's boisterous clan. Abuelas dishing tamales, uncles debating Yankees scores. Invite them, Alex urged one rainy April evening, rain lashing the windows like impatient fingers. Not for them, for you. Close the loop, mi amor. Ethan resisted, the wound too raw, but therapy sessions, gentler now with a queer shrink named Marla, prodded deeper. Reclamation isn't erasure, she'd say, her voice a steady anchor. It's authorship. The invitations arrived like thunderheads, pearlescent stock embossed with gold. Ethan James Sinclair and Alexander Mateo Rivera request the honor. He penned the family note by hand, words measured as a scalpel. 15 years ago, You left me at Hawthorne's gates, convinced love was a flaw to fix. I've built a life from those ruins, one of unapologetic truth. Join us in celebrating it, or don't. But know this, I'm whole, sealed, stamped, surrendered to the postman on a crisp May morn. Ethan felt unburdened, the envelope's weight lifting like fog from the Hudson. Responses trickled in. Yes from college comrades, regrets from distant cousins. Jasper RSVP'd with a flourish. Wouldn't miss it for the world, old friend. Bringing a +1, my husband, Theo. Small world, huh? Ethan's pulse quickened. Jasper married, out. A follow-up email spilled the beans. Harvard Law, a firm in Boston, coming out at 25 after a near-miss car wreck cracked his facade. You were the brave one back then, he wrote. I was just scared shitless. Tears pricked as Ethan typed back. We both survived. Beers after the ceremony. Silence from Pittsburgh stretched taut as piano wire. Alex distracted with venue walks. Rooftops in Soho yielding to a loft in Chelsea. Exposed brick and fairy lights evoking Brooklyn lofts from their early days. Rehearsal dinners planned around rooftop BBQs. Vows workshopped over craft IPAs. Yet doubt crept in whispers. What if they came? Harlan's glare of frost across the dance floor? What if they didn't? The empty chairs a louder accusation. June bloomed riotous. Hydrangeas spilling from bodega buckets. The city a fever of tourists and taxi horns. The wedding eve found them in a haze of nerves and nostalgia. Toasting with Prosecco on their fire escape. Skyline winking like a co-conspirator. To us? Alex murmured, clinking glasses. His thumb tracing Ethan's ring finger. The plot twist they never saw coming. Sleep evaded Ethan. Dreams tangling Hawthorne's sleet with Manhattan's neon. Jasper's hug morphing to Harlan's scowl. Alex's laugh dissolving into silence. Dawn broke golden. The loft transformed. White linens draped over beams. Sunflowers nodding in mason jars. A string quartet tuning Gershwin in the corner. Guests milled. Activists in linen suits. Artists with ink-sleeved arms. Marla beaming in a floral caftan. Jasper arrived early, Theo at his side. A quiet architect with wire rims and a warm grip. You look like a goddamn leading man? Jasper grinned, clapping Ethan's shoulders. Over mimosas, they reminisced. The observatory heists, the pie raids. I wrote you letters after you left, Jasper confessed, voice low. Burned 'em all. Too chicken shit to send. Ethan squeezed his arm. I felt them anyway. The ceremony unfolded like a hymn to resilience. Alex waited at the altar, resplendent in a cream tuxedo that hugged his frame, eyes shining as Ethan walked the aisle to Nina Simone's velvet croon. Vows poured forth, unscripted and searing. Alex's promise to fight every shadow with you. Ethan's oath to love without apology, as you taught me grace. Rings exchanged, simple platinum bands etched with coordinates of their first kiss. Sealed with a kiss that drew whoops and tears. The crowd surged forward, a tide of embraces, as the quartet swung into at last. But as champagne flowed and canapes circulated, a hush rippled the loft's edge. Ethan, mid-laugh with Theo, turned, and there they were, Harlan and Lydia, framed in the doorway like portraits stepped from oil canvas. Harlan, grayer, stiffer in a navy suit that strained at the seams, his face a map of furrows. Lydia, elegant in pearl gray silk, clutching a clutch like a shield, her eyes, those faded sepia pools, locked on her son with a hunger that bordered on grief. The room stilled, conversations tapering to murmurs. Alex's hand finding Ethan's in a vice of solidarity. Ethan's breath caught, the ember from that attic night flaring to inferno. You came, he said, voice steady, crossing the floor as guests parted like the Red Sea. Harlan cleared his throat, a rumble like distant thunder. Got your note, figured. Owed you that much. Lydia stepped forward, tentative, her hand extending a small box. Velvet, antique. Your grandfather's cufflinks. For luck. Inside, silver gleamed, monogrammed with the family crest Ethan had long renounced. He closed the lid, the click of punctuation. Words tumbled then, a deluge long damned. Harlan's gruff admissions of fear. Didn't know how to fix what I broke. Lydia's litany of regrets. Therapy sought in secret, letters drafted and discarded. We were cowards, she whispered, tears carving tracks. But you're our blood. Always were. Ethan listened, heart a battlefield. Rage warring with the ache for what might have been. Alex hovered, fierce protector, but Ethan waved him off. This was his authorship. Jasper interjected, clapping Harlan's back with forced bonhomie. Sinclair men, huh? Stubborn as hell. Laughter cracked the tension, a fissure letting light in. Harlan eyed Jasper, recognition dawning. Hale? The roommate. A nod, then improbably a half-smile. Heard you made good. Senator's kid. Over hors d'oeuvres, deviled eggs and dates wrapped in bacon. The old guard mingled awkwardly with the new. Harlan quizzing Theo on sustainable builds. Lydia charmed by Marla's tales of ballroom dancing. Yet the climax crested at the toasts. Microphones passed like batons in a relay of truths. Alex's words were fire. Ethan's not just my husband. He's the revolution I never knew I needed. Guests cheered, but when Ethan's turn came, the room held its collective breath. He stood, glass raised, gaze sweeping the faces. Loved ones earned, family reclaimed. 15 years ago, I was abandoned at a boarding school gate, labeled broken for loving as I was made to. That boy survived shocks and silences, built bridges from betrayals. Today, I stand here not despite you, but because of the fire you lit. To forgiveness, not absolution, but alliance. To love that endures the rust. Harlan rose then, unbidden, voice gravel over glass. I was wrong, a fool in a world that taught me fear over feeling. Ethan, son, I'm proud, damn proud. The applause thundered, tears flowing free as the skyline beyond the windows burned orange. Lydia pulled Ethan into an embrace, her perfume, Chanel No. 5, unchanged, flooding him with childhood's ache. My boy, she breathed. My beautiful boy. The night dissolved into dance. Salsa under the stars with Alex, Harlan swaying stiffly with Lydia to Sinatra, Jasper and Theo twirling in mock waltz. Betrayals didn't vanish. They scarred, beautiful as kintsugi. But in that loft, under Manhattan's indifferent gaze, they mended into something human, flawed, alive. As confetti rained and cabs honked below, Ethan stole a moment on the fire escape, Alex's head on his shoulder. You did it, his husband murmured. Wrote the ending. Ethan smiled, the city a constellation at his feet. Nah, just the intermission. Act 3's gonna be epic. In the years that followed, bridges held. Awkward Thanksgivings in Pittsburgh, where Harlan's scotch softened edges. Lydia's garden bloomed with sunflowers for the grandsons they'd one day spoil. Ethan and Alex adopted twins from the Bronx, brown-eyed firecrackers who romped through lofts turned brownstones. Jasper became godfather, his firm taking pro bono cases from Ethan's org. Betrayal's ghost lingered in quiet arguments, therapy check-ins, but it fueled, rather than felled. Humanity, Ethan learned, wasn't perfection. It was persistence, the choice to invite the storm inside and dance in the downpour. And on solstice nights, when the skyline shimmered, he'd raise a glass to the boy at Hawthorne's gates. You made it, kid. We all did. Epilogue whispers came in autumn's hush, 2 years post-vows, when the leaves turned the Hudson to flame. Ethan, now 33, balanced board meetings with bedtime stories, his advocacy firm swelling with cases. Trans kids fighting expulsions, elders reclaiming pensions denied in panic's name. Alex's latest script, a semi-autobiographical queer coming-of-age, snagged Sundance buzz, its Hawthorne-inspired dorms drawing raves for raw nerve. Life wasn't linear. It zigzagged, mornings of mediation with Harlan over mill legacies, evenings of Alex's laughter echoing off Brooklyn Heights. The real climax, though, brewed in quiet confrontation, unbidden as a squall. It struck one crisp October, at the Sinclair estate for Lydia's birthday. A Georgian pile overlooking the Alleghenies, its porches sagging under wisteria. Harlan had mellowed into silvered grandfatherhood, doting on the twins with wooden trains and wary wisdom. Build strong boys, but bend when the wind howls. Lydia orchestrated the affair with flair. Catered barbecue, string lights twinkling against the dusk. A cake tiered like a wedding echo. Jasper and Theo arrived with tales from Boston, their adoption papers fresh for a girl from foster care. Toasts flowed, bourbon neat, until Harlan pulled Ethan aside to the study. The same rug, now threadbare, ghosts of that shattering night. "Son," he rumbled, settling into the wingback, a tumbler sweating in his grip. "There's something I need to square." Ethan tensed, the air thick with unsaid sins. Harlan slid a folder across the desk. Yellowed clippings, ledgers dog-eared. "That leak to the Inquirer. 79 Union bust. Was me. Fired 300, blacklisted the rest. Ruined lives to save the bottom line." Ethan's gut twisted, the anonymous drop 2 decades prior resurfacing like bile. "Why tell me now?" Harlan's eyes, watery with age, met his unflinching. "Because you did what I couldn't, faced the rot. Therapy's been peeling layers. Your mom pushed, said it was time. Pause heavy as fog. I abandoned you at that school not just for who you are, for who I was. Scared of weakness, mine most of all. Thought fixing you fixed me." The confession hung, a bridge's keystone slotting into place. Ethan leaned forward, voice low thunder. "It wasn't fixing, Dad. It was erasure. I spent years rebuilding from scraps you scattered." Harlan nodded, shoulders sagging like deflated sails. "I know, and no sorry undoes that. But I'm trying, donating to your causes, quiet like. Mill's pension fund for the old workers' kids." He tapped the folder. "Evidence for your archives. Make it right if you can." Tears pricked, unbidden, rage's embers cooling to something like grace. Ethan took the file, fingers brushing his father's, the touch electric with history. "This doesn't absolve, but it's a start." Harlan gripped his hand, knuckles white. "That's all I ask. A start." Outside, the party pulsed. Twins chasing fireflies with cousins, Alex spinning Lydia in a clumsy foxtrot, Jasper regaling Theo with exaggerated Hawthorne yarns. Ethan rejoined, folder tucked under arm like a talisman, pulling Alex into a slow sway under the lanterns. "Heavy night," his husband murmured, breath warm against his ear. Ethan nodded, then smiled fierce, free. "Healing's messy, but worth the mud." That winter, the firm litigated the Sinclair case pro bono, settlements for descendants, headlines hailing industrial reckoning. Harlan testified, voice cracking on the stand, Lydia in the gallery clutching rosary and Ethan's hand. Victory tasted bittersweet. Champagne shared in a courtroom turned conference room. Toasts to justice overdue. Spring brought renewal. The twins' first Pride March, Harlan trailing with a rainbow pin pinned awkwardly to his lapel, grumbling but grinning. Jasper's girl, little Maya, bonded with the boys over sidewalk chalk, her giggles a bomb. Betrayals, once monoliths, eroded to pebbles, skipped over in the river of days. On their 5th anniversary, Ethan and Alex renewed vows in the Poconos. A cabin ringed by pines, wildflowers nodding like old friends. No ghosts this time, just them. Barefoot on moss, rings refreshed with engravings of the twins' birthdates. "To the life we claimed," Alex whispered, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of forever. Ethan, gazing at the man who'd become his compass, felt the arc complete. Not a tidy bow, but a helix, twisting toward light. Abandoned once, he'd invited the abandoners to witness his bloom. And in that witnessing, they'd all found soil anew, human, humbled, whole.